be very clear about something before I begin. I grew up in New York City, late nights, drunk strangers, until the night of March 14th, when I took the last train home, that something was very, very wrong. I ever rode the subway alone. It was a Thursday, working on a deadline. It was almost 2 a.m., that particular kind of quiet that only New York gets. We're the city that never sleeps. I walked down to the 42nd Street station and went down to the platform, completely empty. I had done this 100 times before. Wait for the train, simple, looking down the dark tunnel. That's when I noticed him, standing at the far end of the platform, just standing there, facing the wall. Not sitting on the bench, facing the wall. I told myself he was drunk or just weird. You learn not to stare, so I looked away. Waiting for the train, I looked back. He was now 50 feet away instead of 100. Still perfectly still. The platform was completely silent. And he had moved 50 feet. My heart started beating faster. He just walked while you weren't looking. I pulled out my phone, but kept watching him in my peripheral vision. 2 minutes, I looked directly at him, still completely still, head slightly bowed. Was not right, like a mannequin, but not quite getting it right. And he turned his head. Just his head all the way. From 50 feet away, I could see his face, too wide, and he was smiling. The kind of smile that has nothing behind it. Like someone had told him to smile. I stopped breathing. I ran. I am not the kind of person who gets scared easily. I have ridden the subway my entire life. Empty platforms. None of it ever bothered me 2 years ago. And realized halfway through. That was the last time, at night. I had stayed late at my office in Midtown Manhattan. By the time I packed up and left, the streets were quiet at 2 in the morning. Almost feels like it does. Swiped my Metro card, empty, which was normal for that time of night. Stand alone on the platform. Go home. I stood near the edge, waiting for the lights of the train. A man, maybe 100 feet away, perfectly still, not looking at his phone, just standing, in complete stillness or tired. New York has all kinds. You learn not to engage. Back at the tunnel, 30 seconds later, he had moved, still facing the wall. I hadn't heard a single footstep. Dead silent without making a single sound. But I told myself, calm down. Simple. Pretended to look at it. 1 minute passed, he didn't move. Still facing the wall, arms at his sides. Something about the way he stood, not human, right? Like something pretending to be a person. I took 3 steps toward the exit, not his body, slowly, until he was looking directly at me. In the fluorescent light of that empty platform, his eyes were open, his mouth was slightly open. Not a normal smile, empty, and he had never actually seen one before. He took 1 step toward me. I didn't take the exit. I ran to the other end of the platform, as far from him as I could get. My footsteps echoed off the tiles. I could hear my own heartbeat. I stopped, pressed my back against the wall, and looked back. He was standing exactly where I had been standing, at my spot, near the edge, facing me now. He hadn't run. He hadn't rushed. He had simply walked and covered 100 feet. In the time it took me to run the same distance, the train wasn't coming. There were no lights in the tunnel, no rumbling, no sound, just me and him on that empty platform. At 2 a.m., I looked at the exit. It was behind him now. He was standing between me and the only way out. My phone had 1 bar of signal. I called 911. The operator picked up. I whispered, "There is a man following me on the subway platform, 42nd Street. Please send someone. Please." The operator said, "Sir, can you describe the man?" I looked up to describe him. He was gone. The platform was empty. I spun around. Left, right. Behind me. Nobody. Just the empty platform, the fluorescent lights, and the dark tunnel. The operator was still talking, but I couldn't hear her anymore, because from somewhere in the tunnel, from deep inside the darkness, someone laughed. One short laugh. Low, quiet, like they were standing right next to me. The train arrived 40 seconds later. I got on, sat in the middle of the car under the brightest light, and did not move until my stop. I looked out the window as we entered the tunnel, and for just 1 second, in the darkness between stations, illuminated by the passing lights of the train, I saw him, standing in the tunnel, on the tracks, watching the train go by, still smiling. I moved apartments 2 weeks later. Different borough, different subway line, and even now, I never, ever stand near the edge of the platform, because sometimes, late at night, when the platform is quiet, I think about that laugh, and I wonder if he's still down there, in the tunnels, in the dark, waiting for the last train at 2 a.m. I have told this story to exactly 2 people in my life: my therapist and my best friend. My therapist told me it was a trauma response. My best friend told me to never take public transit alone again. They were both right. This happened 3 years ago, in Chicago, on a Tuesday night in November, when I made the mistake of taking the last bus home. I wish every single day that I had just called a cab. I was 23 years old, working a closing shift at a restaurant downtown, finished at midnight, exhausted, feet hurting, just wanted to get home. I missed the second to last bus by 30 seconds. I watched it pull away from the stop, taillights disappearing into the rain, so I waited, in the cold, in the rain, for the last bus. The 1:15 a.m. It arrived 7 minutes late. The doors opened. I got on, and immediately, something felt wrong. Not scary wrong, not dangerous wrong, just off. The bus was almost completely empty, which was normal for 1 a.m., but the feeling inside that bus was not normal. It was too quiet, too still, like the air itself was holding its breath. There were 3 other passengers: an old woman in the front, asleep, a teenage boy with headphones, looking at his phone, and a man in the very back, sitting in the last seat, in the corner, in the dark. I couldn't see his face clearly. The back of the bus was poorly lit, but I could see his outline. Big. Still. Watching, I sat in the middle, far enough from the back, close enough to the front. I told myself I was just tired, paranoid. It had been a long shift. The bus pulled away, and I looked out the rain-streaked window, watching the city pass by. 3 stops later, the old woman got off. 2 stops after that, the teenage boy got off. And then, it was just me, and the man in the back. I could feel him looking at me, the way you feel someone's eyes on the back of your neck. That primal feeling, that warning your body sends you, before your brain even processes the danger. I did not turn around. 4 more stops, I told myself. Just 4 more stops and I'm home. I stared straight ahead, counted the stops. 1, the bus slowed. Nobody got on. Nobody got off. 2, same. I could hear him now. Breathing, slow, deep, deliberate, like he wanted me to hear it. 3, 1 more stop. Just 1 more. I gripped the pole next to my seat, ready to stand up, ready to get off, ready to run if I had to. And then, I felt it. Breath on the back of my neck. He had moved, without a single sound, from the very back of the bus to directly behind me, in complete silence. I stopped breathing. He leaned forward and whispered, right into my ear, "Don't get off at your stop. His voice was completely calm, like he was telling me the weather, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Don't get off at your stop." My body went completely cold. Every instinct I had was screaming. Every single alarm in my body was going off. My stop was coming up, 30 seconds away. I could see the sign. I didn't move. I didn't get off. The bus passed my stop and kept going. He moved back, silently, back to his seat in the dark, like nothing had happened. I rode that bus for 4 more stops, shaking, gripping that pole so hard my knuckles went white. At the 4th stop, I jumped up, ran to the doors, and got off. I stood on that wet sidewalk, in the cold Chicago rain, and watched the bus pull away. He was standing at the back window, watching me. As the bus disappeared into the dark, I called my roommate, crying. She picked me up 20 minutes later. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I looked up the bus route. My stop, the one he told me not to get off at. There had been an incident reported. That same night, around 1:30 a.m., 2 blocks from my stop, a woman had been attacked, walking home alone from the bus stop. The police were looking for a suspect. They released a description 2 days later. Big, dark clothing, last seen boarding the 1:15 a.m. bus. Downtown Chicago. I sat with that for a long time, because here is what I still cannot explain. If the man on the bus was the attacker, why did he warn me? Why did he tell me not to get off? And if he wasn't the attacker, how did he know? I have never found the answer. And I have never taken the last bus again. He boarded the train at the last stop before midnight. He sat down directly across from me, and for the next 4 hours, he never blinked once. I need you to understand something before I tell you this. I have taken long-distance trains my entire life. Amtrak. Cross-country. Overnight. Alone. Dozens of times. I am not someone who gets nervous. I am not someone who imagines things. I'm a 31-year-old nurse. I deal with life and death every single day. Fear is not something that comes easily to me. But what happened on the night of October 9th, on the Amtrak train from New Orleans to Chicago, changed something inside me. Permanently. I have not taken a train since. I will never take a train again. And after you hear this, I think you'll understand why. It started as a completely normal trip. I was traveling from New Orleans back to Chicago, where I lived. I had been visiting my mother for a week. She had been sick. Nothing serious, just needed someone around. I had taken this exact route before. The City of New Orleans train, 19 hours, overnight. I boarded at 7 p.m. Found my seat, window seat, middle of the car. Not too close to the bathroom, not too close to the doors. Perfect. The car was maybe half full. Families, a few college students, an older couple across the aisle. Reading. Peaceful. I put my headphones in, started a podcast, watched Louisiana disappear into the darkness outside the window. By 10 p.m., most people were asleep. The lights in the car had been dimmed. That warm, comfortable darkness of a night train, the gentle rocking, the rhythmic sound of the tracks. I loved this specific feeling, moving through the night, safe, warm, going home. At 11:47 p.m., we pulled into a small station, Memphis, Tennessee. I looked up from my phone, watched a few people shuffle off, watched a few new passengers board, and then he got on. I noticed him immediately, not because he was loud, not because he was strange looking, but because of the way he moved. Slow, deliberate, like every single step was carefully calculated, like he was counting his footsteps. He was tall, very tall. Dark coat, no bag, no luggage, nothing. Who boards an overnight train with absolutely nothing? He walked down the aisle, slowly, looking at each seat as he passed. Not looking for an empty seat, looking at the people, examining them, and then he stopped. At my row, the seat directly across from me was empty. He looked at it. Then he looked at me. For 3 full seconds, he just looked at me. And then he sat down, directly across from me, in a half-empty train car, with dozens of other empty seats. He chose the one directly across from me. I looked back at my phone, told myself it was nothing. People sit where they want. It means nothing, but something in my stomach did not agree. I gave it 10 minutes. Then I looked up. He was staring at me, not glancing, not looking in my general direction, staring directly into my eyes. I looked away immediately, back to my phone, heart beating just a little faster. 5 minutes later, I looked up again. Still staring, same expression, completely blank, mouth slightly open, eyes wide, unblinking. I stared back this time. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. He didn't look away. He didn't blink. He didn't move. Just stared. I looked away first. I told myself he's just a strange person. Maybe mentally ill, maybe on medication. I work in a hospital. I have seen all kinds. Don't judge. Don't panic. I put my headphones back in, turned the volume up, pulled my jacket tighter, and tried to sleep. Sometime around 1 a.m., I woke up. The car was almost completely dark now. Almost everyone was asleep. The gentle rocking of the train, the sound of tracks. I opened my eyes slowly and looked across. He was still awake, still sitting perfectly upright in the darkness, and he was still staring at me. I pulled out my phone, opened my messages, texted my roommate back in Chicago. "Hey, are you awake?" She replied instantly. "Yes, watching TV, why?" I typed. "There is a man on this train who has been staring at me for 2 hours straight, and it's really freaking me out." She replied, "Go tell the conductor." I looked up. He was reading my screen, leaning forward, just slightly, eyes moving, reading every single word of my private conversation. I turned the screen away. He leaned back, slowly, and smiled. The first expression he had shown in 2 hours. A slow, deliberate smile. I stood up immediately, grabbed my bag, and walked to the front of the car to find the conductor. The conductor was a heavy-set woman named Carol. I could see her name tag. She had kind eyes. I felt safer the moment I saw her. I told her everything. The staring, the reading my screen, the smile. She listened carefully. Then she walked back with me to my car, to my row. The seat across from mine was empty. He was gone. Carol looked at me with that expression, that careful, professional, "I believe you, but there's nothing I can do" expression. She said she would check the other cars. She said I could move to a different seat. She said I would be fine. I moved. 3 rows up, aisle seat, right next to an older man who was snoring loudly. I have never been so grateful for snoring in my life. I sat there, rigid, wide awake, for the next hour. Nothing happened. Slowly, very slowly, my heart rate came down. My breathing slowed. The warmth of the train, the rhythmic rocking. My eyelids got heavy, and somewhere around 3 a.m., I fell asleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I woke up because of a smell, a specific smell, close, too close. the smell of cold air, and something else, something I recognized from work, from the hospital, the smell of someone who has been outside in the cold for a very long time. I opened my eyes. He was sitting in the seat directly behind me. I could see him in the dark reflection of the window. He had found me in a different car, in a different row, in the dark, and he had sat directly behind me while I slept. In the reflection, I could see his face. He was looking at the back of my head, and his lips were moving silently, like he was saying something, over and over, the same thing. Again and again, I could not hear what it was. I did not move. I did not turn around. I controlled my breathing, kept it slow, kept it even, pretending to still be asleep. My phone was in my jacket pocket. I slowly, very slowly, slid my hand in and dialed 911. No sound. Screen brightness all the way down. I pressed the phone to my leg, and I whispered, as quietly as I possibly could, "I am on the Amtrak City of New Orleans train, somewhere between Memphis and Chicago. There is a man sitting directly behind me. I am scared. Please contact Amtrak police. Please." I don't know if the operator heard me. I don't know if the call even connected. The signal on a moving train at 3 a.m. is not reliable. What I do know is that I sat there, completely still, for 45 minutes, while he sat behind me, his lips moving, silently. At some point, the snoring man next to me shifted in his sleep, turned toward me. His arm bumped mine. I almost screamed, but that small contact, another human being, right there, kept me together. Slowly, the darkness outside the window began to change. The deep black of 3 a.m., softening, barely, but I could feel it. Dawn was somewhere out there, and then I heard footsteps coming down the aisle. I kept my eyes closed, kept my breathing slow. The footsteps stopped. Right at my row, I heard a voice.
Hello.
Male. "Sir, I need you to come with me. Amtrak police." Carol had called them. I heard movement behind me, the creak of the seat. Footsteps, moving away. Down the aisle, away from me. I opened my eyes. The seat behind me was empty. I started shaking so hard. The man next to me woke up. He looked at me, took one look at my face, and said, "Are you okay?" I could not speak. I just shook my head. He sat with me, this complete stranger, this snoring, wonderful, ordinary man. He sat with me and talked to me about nothing, about his grandchildren, about the weather, about where he was going, until the sun came up. The Amtrak police officer came to speak with me an hour later. He told me the man had been removed from the train. At the next station, he told me I was safe. He told me I had done the right thing. I asked him what the man's name was. He said he couldn't tell me that. I asked him if the man had done anything like this before. He paused. A long pause, the kind of pause that tells you everything. And then he said, "Ma'am, I'm just glad you stayed awake." We pulled into Chicago at 2 p.m., 17 hours after I boarded in New Orleans. My roommate was waiting on the platform. I walked off that train and held on to her for a very long time. That night, when I finally felt safe enough to breathe, I looked up the man's description online. I found nothing, but I did find something else. A forum post from 8 months earlier. A woman describing a man on an overnight Amtrak train, tall, dark coat, no luggage, who stared at her for hours, without blinking. Same route, New Orleans to Chicago. The post had 47 replies, from different women, different dates, spanning 3 years. all describing the same man, same train, same route, same behavior. The last reply was from 7 months ago. It said, "I took this train last week." He was there again. I got off at Memphis. I left everything on the train. My luggage, my laptop, everything. I just got off. And as the train pulled away, I saw him, standing at the window of my empty seat, watching me on the platform, still not blinking. I don't know who he is. I don't know why he does this. But if you are a woman traveling alone on the overnight train from New Orleans to Chicago, please do not fall asleep. I have never responded to that post, but I have read it every single night for the past 2 years, because here is the thing that truly destroys me. When the officer removed him from the train, I watched from my window as they walked him down the platform. He was calm, completely calm, not struggling, not arguing. But just before they took him inside the station, he stopped and turned around and looked directly at my window from 100 feet away, in the dark, on a moving train. He found my exact window, and he smiled. That same smile, slow, empty, like it meant something, only to him. The train pulled away, and I watched him get smaller and smaller until he disappeared. I still think about what the officer said. "I'm just glad you stayed awake," because I have thought about it every night since. What would have happened if I hadn't woken up? What was he saying, with his lips moving silently, in the dark, behind my sleeping head? What would have happened? At the next stop? At the last stop? I don't know. I will never know. And somehow, that is the most terrifying thing of all.